Morris, listening on KPFK in Long Beach, California. Hey, Morris, what's up?
Professor, I think the first thing we need to do to address this issue is to come at it not with the spirit of indictment, but recognize man's inhumanity to man. It has no color, it has no religion, it has no language. And history simply means his story. Whoever can tell the story is going to be the one controlling the narrative. But I think you're right that we're going to have to address this issue. How do we address it? I'm not sure. But you're right in your observation. We're going to have to address it because it goes beyond just Columbus Day. It goes to a lot of other things, American exceptionalism, for example. I wish I had an answer to this one, but you've got a stimulating discussion. I just don't know how to answer it.
Yeah. Well, I think, Morris, that what we're seeing, the mentality that we saw manifested by Columbus and his brutal band is not that different. In fact, I would say, generally speaking, the identical mentality that was displayed by the white Europeans who were engaged in the slave trade, whether it be the ones who were capturing people in Africa, the ones who were shipping them over here, the ones who were selling them, or the ones who owned them, which included, half our founders. Pardon me?
Well, another thing, Professor, I was listening to Farrakhan this past weekend. I want to give some props to Thomas Jefferson. Farrakhan was very supportive of what Mr. Jefferson tried to do, but the problem that Thomas Jefferson had was he wasn't enough of a force to do it by himself. He was a founding father, but he wasn't a king. And many of the things that he accused King George of doing, right, and as a reason or rationale to break away from King George, he found that his own country found itself doing the same thing, but he didn't have the influence to change it. But if you read his works, according to Farrakhan, because I haven't, you'll see that Thomas Jefferson wasn't jumping up and down for slavery. He tried to stop it, but he just wasn't big enough of a force.
Oh, that's absolutely true, Morris. And there's a chapter.
I know you know.
yeah. There's a chapter in my book, What Would Jefferson Do, about exactly that. I mean, when Jefferson was in his 20s, his first elective office was a member of the House of Burgesses for the state of Virginia. This is when it was still a British colony, and he introduced legislation to end slavery in Virginia. And his colleagues were so PO'd at him for doing that they passed a law saying if anybody in Virginia freed a slave, that slave would be subject to immediate arrest anywhere in the state and be put to work for 2 years to the state and then put back on the slave block, on the sale block. And when Jefferson, he had 2 daughters by Sally Heming. He married both of them off to white men from New York, and they just kind of, they passed and they melted back into that, never to be seen again. I mean, nobody knows what happened, where they went, but it was just a bizarre time. And Jefferson repeatedly tried to end slavery and repeatedly got beat down for it. And then in his old age, he talked about, with the Missouri Compromise, he said, this is going to be the death knell of the nation. That was his phrase. And in a letter to John Adams, he says, my only regret is that I will not live long enough to see, he was talking about the coming Civil War. And he says, my only regret is that, or my only solace is that I will not live to see this happen, to see my country torn apart by this issue of slavery. On the other hand, he owned slaves and he benefited tremendously from their labor. So it's not like it's all black and white, Morris. Jefferson was a very complex guy, as we all are, I think, on some level. Morris, thank you for the call.